Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Hope you had a good break. Just a quick note, we have these headphones here, so if you want to really focus in on the workshops, put those on and you will hear the speakers directly. Now, without further ado, I'd like to introduce Guillermo and Jacob from Pagoda, and they're going to take us through a fascinating workshop.
Thank you so much. It's always a pleasure being here. Do I have a microphone? Can you hear me?
Check, check. I'm off too. Check.
I.
It
It's
was
like a
just
silent thing, so you actually need to hear through the. No,
okay.
no. I think that you need to use the headphones. I think
Oh,
yes. Right? Like they are on. Can you hear me through the headphones?
check, check. Hello, hello,
Well, I mean, please bear with us while we
hello.
go through technical. We'll be back shortly. Can you hear me? No? Hmm. Now, can you hear me? Yeah? Okay. Let's see if we're all here. Anyway, otherwise, no, because if I yell, I'm gonna be yelling in your ears. So I'm just gonna speak normally, and hopefully, if you just wear the headphones, you're gonna be able to hear us. So my name is Guillermo. I'm developer relations at Pagoda.
I'm Jacob Nall. I'm a product designer at Pagoda.
Yeah, and today we're here to talk about separating the technology from the experience, also known as trying to not talk about crypto and just focusing on solving problems.
Great. So I'm going to start with this, what I would like to call magic. So this is a Wi-Fi sharing flow from Apple. They've really done everything they can to remove every ounce of friction. Um, I'm sure you guys have all connected to the internet before. I think something that's even harder than that is helping your parents connect to the internet. So I think Apple just really found a need. They had one goal: get people to connect to the internet, and they focused on that one thing. There's obviously a lot of complexity around Wi-Fi and security. They eliminated all that in favor of this one use case.
Now, if you ask a Web3 engineer to solve exactly the same problem, it will most probably look like this. I mean, at the end, you are managing to connect to Wi-Fi, that's true, but this might be like a barrier for most of the people. Most of the people, they just want to connect to internet. They don't want to know about the IP, the DNS. Like, I have configured my DNS, and some people won't, but it's most probably not everyone. And that's exactly the problem that we have in Web3. We are building too much of this and too few of the magic. So
Right. We're not saying this stuff's not important, right?
So we think that it is time to change the narrative. Or if I could just summarize the whole talk in one sentence, just saying crypto won't bring users and won't save you.
So I guess we want to ask, what's the role of our technology? I would love this ad from Brother Printers. I'm sure most of you have used a printer, and this is really all we wanted to do, right? But like, if you're building a printer, you might say, "Man, this is gonna change the world," right? And I think we like to talk about that a lot in blockchain and Web3. Of course, we believe that uh, down the road, a lot of the things we're building will change the world, but I think our role right now and the role of that specific Web3 lingo and technology needs to be behind the scenes. That alone won't change the world. It's more of how people will use it to build compelling apps and products. I borrowed this slide from my esteemed design leader, Sarah. People don't need blockchain. They don't need DAOs. They need them to do things to help them solve problems, like a way to make money, to give them a purpose, something to worry about their data disappearing. So let's stop overemphasizing the whole Web3 side of things. So we're going to start with a couple things we've learned at Pagoda about building for the audience you want to reach. I want to just reiterate that it's all about who you're aiming for. Of course, some of the products we build in the space are very technical for a very good reason. We have a lot of power users and people who are passionate about Web3. But to be honest, I think we've about tapped that audience out. I think we need to start building for people that need their problems solved and not people who are just like fanboys about Web3. One of the first things we learned, Sarah mentioned in her talk, simple is such a powerful word. Everybody loves to use that word. But I think it's a big concept that we're trying to focus on at Pagoda with some of the products we're building. FastAuth, for example. There's other products on Near Keepom, Shard Dog that are really focused on eliminating a lot of the lingo. Stops talking about Web3. Stop saying blockchain. We're also trying to delay or eliminate as much friction as possible. So of course, like we get the utility of seed phrases and ownership and all that, but it's not for everybody. And I think we need to, reassess how we're doing that. Um, Another thing that I think we're focused on is trying to build seamless experiences. So, uh, when you get to a Web3 app, you connect your wallet. I mean, that's already a blocker for a lot of people. That's something they have to do. They have to go to a third-party experience to even start using your app. A lot of the time, you need to come with assets already. So we're basically charging admission to do something that we might not even be familiar with, or it might not even have value to us in the first place. Um, One thing that we're doing at Pagoda, we are working on a relayer service to help eliminate gas fees for users. So you could sponsor gas fees within your app, let users try it out. Maybe there's a ramp for them to do something differently, but I think getting started, things like the relayer really help. Also put thoughtful disclosure up here. So basically saying what's relevant when it matters. We don't always have to start and give a full contract code to review. How can we boil that down to something that's easy for users to do in context? Which brings me to my last and favorite point, which is context matters. So I spent a lot of my time working on the FastAuth product, and a lot of the criticism around that product is about getting to a traditional crypto wallet. I really want to push back on that inclination that that's where users need to go. Users don't need a wallet. They need a way to confirm transactions. They need a way to house their identity and their assets. So a lot of the things we build, there's so much context switching, redirect to another app, change your chain, change your network. We've found that these elements of friction really impact the experience negatively. One thing we're doing, part of our FastAuth package, is a signer app, so you can embed some of the signing within your app directly, and instead of having to redirect to your wallet all the time. And also, we're working on some multi-chain interoperability. So if you come to Web3 via Near and you decide you want to start using Ethereum apps, that shouldn't be as complex as it is today. So we're trying to solve those problems as well.
Yeah, and so that's important to say that we actually learn this by making those mistakes. So what we are now going to try to do is to give you some nice strategies for building applications that users will actually want to build. Again, not because we're geniuses, but because we went through all of those problems for you. So if you want to take notes or take pictures, that will be very beneficial for your applications. So the first one is that we want to say, do not assume that the users want to have a wallet or that they have access to crypto. And this is very important. And I wanna highlight that we're saying do not assume. Like, some users want to have a wallet, and that's okay. But that's most probably not most of them. And then accessing to crypto is also very, very complicated, because sometimes we make accessing to wallets super simple. Like, we have the web.wallet.near. That was a web wallet. You had to install nothing. But then how do people actually get the crypto? And that's a huge stopper, especially depending where they are, right? Like, there are countries where getting crypto is easier, and there are countries where getting crypto is like basically impossible. So because of that, we have created some solutions that we think that will be very beneficial for you. One of them is FastAuth, which basically allows a user to just log in and get a Near account using their email, which is very nice because they don't need to remember seed phrases. They don't need to, go around with some weird crypto lingo. They just log in with their email, like we used to do for the past 15 years in the web, which is, right, like what everyone knows. And otherwise, if you don't want to create FastAuth because you don't want to go through a relayer because like the technicalities maybe is too far away for what you need, you can try to use keep on trial accounts. Keep on trial accounts basically allow you to create an account, to create a key that is linked to an account that you can just give to a user, and that account is very limited on what they can do. You can say, like, I want them on the first step to do this, on the second step to do this, on the third step, we're going to give them some fungible tokens, some NFT, but you have complete and total control over what you're going to be, over what your users are going to be doing. And while it's not here, I also want to say that in any case, if you just want to give some frictionless experience to your users, you can also create always an application in the near testnet, because like that's for testing, and it's a great way to just showcase people how it works. So that will be the first tip. The second one is to reduce the jargon. And this is incredibly important, and this is something that we do so well. I always talk with everyone about how in crypto we love to come up with acronyms that absolutely no one will understand. So we can talk about CKFT, DAOs, DEX, NFTs, and a lot of things that actually mean nothing for most of the users. So just focus on talking about the problem. So it's important that the users know that they are having an FT, like a fungible token, or the important part is that they know that they have some sort of like reward token that they can then use to claim some digital asset, which is way better to say than NFT, or to say like, hey, you know what, you can be part of like a community and vote, and you're gonna have like your vote is gonna have some weight. And that's so much simpler than saying DAO, which contains little to no information for basically anyone that you want to use your application. And that's also why we added this question. Is like, do you know the tech stack of your favorite app? Because I don't, and I enjoy them anyway. So it's not so important, like if it's running in a blockchain using an NFT in order to vote in a DAO. It's about, like you are part of a community and you can do something about it in that community.
Yeah, I just add like these things are almost act like inside jokes, right? Like we alienate a whole group of people when we start using these internal terms, and we should, if we really believe what we say, we're about inclusivity. Um, yeah, and we don't have to know how what we're building works. Like we stop putting it on the front page. Another tip: avoid technicalities. So I think. The way we convey information, I think that, especially in Web3 decentralized apps, we especially us in the space, we really value the transparency. We value the like, oh, like let's show them. It's the user's responsibility to review this contract code and make a decision that's sound for them. But man, that's scary. I think. One point I put on another side is like everything is scary. If you're trying to use an app that you think is Web3, you're already all of us are on alert, but a new user especially. So the more input you require from them, it's going to create fear, and they're going to have a harder time making sound decisions. Like if you, for example, in Near, one thing that I'm trying to evangelize is how we add limited access keys. Okay, that's like a pretty low stakes confirmation. I mean, maybe there's a way we can just skip that, right? Like, do we need to every time we do any basic thing on the blockchain ask for permission or confirm a response?
Yeah, and it's also important to say that, again, like these are mistakes that we also make. For example, if you use near.org, many times the first time that you're going to use something, a terminal will appear saying like, are you sure you want to execute this code? And we know that it's not a terminal. We know that it's just the JSON representation of the data that you're going to save in the blockchain. But for most of the people, they're asking me, what is happening? Why do I have suddenly like a black screen showing me code? Which I am, like a developer, I know that it's not code. But so again, like it's important to it's important to let the user know that an action happened, but maybe the exact transaction hash where that happened and the smart contract, the code that it executed, maybe that's not so relevant for your application.
Yeah, and this is just one of the final tips about building complete experiences or seamless experiences. Um, when we started FastAuth and we were trying to introduce it to some partners, they were asking questions like, well, if I take my assets out of this app and put it in my account or my wallet, like how can I see that? And I think that if that's an expectation of your users and you think that's important to your experience, you should build that within your app. Don't assume that people are going to know, like, oh, like I can do more with this with a wallet. Like if you're trying to build an experience within your app, everything needs to be there for them to be successful. For example, like if you have some sort of loyalty program where you want to see the assets that you have, like you should build a gallery right there within your app. Don't expect some user to like open it up in a wallet, mine your wallet or something, and like see their assets there. Every time we do that, I think we're having drop off. We're like expecting too much from users. Maybe they'll get there eventually. We call that progressive onboarding at Pagoda. Like you start with an account and then maybe you need assets and then maybe you become a power user. But I think let's start with what matters and emphasize that in context, complete experience.
Yeah, and just to add another point to this, something that we have built in order to try to simplify these kind of problems is that now we have the blockchain operating system where there are like more than 10,000 components. So if you want to do something, most probably we have a component for that, and if not, you can just create a component, and other people will also start being like, it's going to be beneficial not only for your application but also for the community. So think about like building complete experiences by composing different small experiences and make sure that everything is there.
Yeah, I think for us to really win and build compelling apps, it's important to like break apart what we've been kind of building like as an all-in-one experience. Obviously, I'm talking a lot about wallets because I work on FastAuth, but FastAuth's great for power users. It's all there. You can top up, you can send, you can receive, you can see your gallery, transactions, whatever. But that is definitely confusing to a lot of people. I think that even though that might feel convenient to us, that's pretty complex to some people. And then when we, to Guillermo's point about the components, I think, yeah, that's why we're breaking these pieces out so you can build things that are intrinsic to your specific flow. You don't need to uh, expect that they can do that thing another way. Just make it a part of what you're doing.
Yeah. So summary. I know that what we're saying sounds very obvious, and it's one of those things that it sounds so obvious that then we have to ask them why nobody else is doing it, right? Like, or why we didn't do it. Uh, and so I'm a researcher, and in research we always say that when someone explains to you something and it sounds like obvious and no one is doing it, it's because it was not so obvious, but it's something that you should actually be doing. So remember, your users do not necessarily want a wallet. They might, and there are users that might want a wallet, but maybe that hampers them more than you actually think, and maybe that hampers adoption way more than what you think. It's hard to get crypto, so also take that into account. Maybe you will want to use FastAuth. Maybe you want to use Keep'em. Uh, Try to build things that are composable. Okay, so don't try to throw everything at once. And if you feel like your user should have a tool, then build that tool. And
Yeah, reduce the jargon. Don't
yes.
don't say blockchain. Like we wear it like a badge of honor, and I think that's cool. Like we obviously are all geeked about Web3, but this next crop of users we're trying to get, if we're really trying to get mass adoption, I challenge you guys like bring back the magic. Put this stuff behind the scenes. How much can you reduce? Like start there, and then I think we'll be on a clearer path to success. All right, I think that's basically all of our tips. Thank you guys for listening. We can take some questions if you want. We still have 10 minutes, so.
Does anyone have any question? Ah,
Yeah, yeah, totally, totally.
so should
That's
we
hard.
repeat the question just in case? Like,
Yeah, yeah.
so the
So
question is like, how should you manage then like a DeFi application?
yeah, that's a pretty hard one because that's very even just in that term DeFi, right? Like we've already lost, right? Like we've already said a term that's unfamiliar to people. Um, but maybe there's a way we can embed stuff like that, like staking, liquidity pools in a way that's familiar without all of the jargon around that. Also, opportunities for education I might bring up. There's always, at least we're finding it's helpful to sprinkle in some educational opportunities, like, oh, well, this is kind of what's happening, but it really depends on your use case.
It's also important to remember that in Web3, we're usually not like inventing something completely new. We're usually just using a blockchain to solve a well-known problem. So, for example, if what you have is an exchange, and like the important part is that the users can come with some sort of asset and go out with some other kind of asset. And there is it really like what's the important part for your application, right? Because every single decentralized finance application will be different, but maybe the only part that you care is about the fact that they can arrive and suddenly get some token, see that they have some token, and then exchange that token in some way, and that's DeFi right there. But the user, like, I don't know how my bank operates. I have no idea what blockchain, but what database they use. It's like Postgres. No idea. What I know is that I enter into my bank account, I transfer something, and suddenly, I don't know, my mom has money, and that's what we want. Like, we never have discussions about like, hey, mom, like maybe you should open a bank account in I don't know where because I heard that their database is like, and that's the important part. It's like even when it's DeFi, it's just about it's the experience, the important part. It's not the DeFi.
Yeah, I'd say like focus on what's familiar to like outside of blockchain, investment, interest rates, don't do too many complex blockchainy language. I'm trying to think. So we're working on this like multi-chain side of FastAuth, and we're trying to like eliminate some of these complex flows like bridging or like sending across chains. How do we like mitigate those that are hard for even us who are like experts or not experts, but proficient at using Web3? How do we make that feel just like any other flow? So I guess that'd be my advice if you were gonna build something like DeFi and bring it down to a different user level. Um,
Yeah, especially in DeFi, where like I feel like a lot of the talk on DeFi centers on like being the owner of your own assets, and that's super important for Web3. And again, we want to clarify we have nothing against Web3. I mean, clearly, right? Like we are in NEARCON. It's more about how we talk with the users. And if you focus so much on like having like that the user has complete ownership on something, maybe you lose usability. And there has to be a sweet spot where there's people that I just want to exchange things, and if it is my wallet with my key, with my I don't know what, because at the end of the day, I know that everything is about decentralization and seeing how few people you can trust, but bringing users and getting users is about building that trust. So there has to be a balance in your application at some point. Yeah,
exactly,
exactly.
exactly.
It's about, again, we're not saying don't build complex applications or don't give the user the opportunity to, mess with their settings. It's more about there has to be a balance at some point of like which kind of user you want to attract. And some of them prefer a simple view, and some of them prefer, to go with their IP and DNS server and etc.
Yeah, one example I think of is Family Wallet. I don't know if you guys are familiar. It's a newer Ethereum-based wallet. I was really excited when they were promoting and marketing that app. I thought it was going to be beautiful and simple, and it is beautiful. But man, they really let me down with how much jargon and how much they built that app for blockchain users, which is fine. It's a wallet, we get it, but I just thought that the way their marketing and everything really made it sound like they were gonna take a leap. They were gonna take a risk and make something for normal people.
I guess we will have to do it. So, any other questions? Yes, please. But I will even go one step like behind that and say that maybe that's not so much of the users, because so the question was about like how do we make people feel that their account, passphrase, or something is valuable so they pay enough attention to not try to lose it. And and I will say that actually we in Web3 we maybe need to start thinking on the other side, and it's like how are we gonna start reacting when people lose their things, because that's I guess bound to happen. Like we can explain them, right? Like we can put like a sign like this which is red and says like bad things happen if you that's explaining. Ex- but I will say yeah, no, no, completely. But I mean, what I would say is that in crypto we need to start thinking about actually like the other side, which is like knowing that our users are gonna be bound to lose things. Like how can we actually act on that? Because everyone loves their seed phrases and their seed phrase until they lose it, and now they hate crypto. And this is a reality. Like whenever we're in the forum and everyone loves Web3 until they lose their crypto key, and then it's terrible. So I think that maybe it's up to us, the developers, to start creating something which is like, okay, you know what? We have this system where you can hold valuable things, and in case you lose them, we have a way to recover them for you. Of course, you will have to trust us, but then it's again, it's a trade-off. It's like, do you want to keep it yourself? Sure, do it. Careful, like how you can warn them, but there's so much that you can do for the user at the end of the day. And I think that's something that I would actually like to see way more is institutions that look more close to centralized finance, but that they run in a blockchain. So I would like to see something closer to a bank on crypto, but that is easy to migrate off from. So I would like that the blockchain and the technology allows you to be in a place that you feel safe and go out as soon as you don't feel safe, which might be, saying like, hey, okay, like this is actually your key, bring it somewhere else, and this is the transfer wizard, or someone else outside can help you say like, ah, okay, those are your, actually, that's your wallet, yeah, okay, we can put it here now. So I will, again, this is about changing that mentality. Maybe it's not so much in the user, but on like, what can we do to help real users who
I would
gonna lose their
I would
crypto
just
keys?
say, urgency of your seed phrase and the importance of it is one problem, but the real problem is users losing access to their account. So if we can solve that problem first, we don't really need, like, some people like might need to worry about their seed phrase, but I think some of the things we brought up, shard dog, keepom, fastoth, those things are eliminating the idea of seed phrases entirely, and they're tying your account to something familiar like an email. Um, Us who might be like maximalists about custody or whatever, and fastoth is non-custodial, but um, you know, w- it's about changing the narrative. So instead of them owning their seed phrase like they own their account, and it's through something familiar that they know they can recover. Of course, like maybe they want to graduate one day to have feeling more ownership with their seed phrase, and maybe if their account reaches a certain value within your app, you want to like even encourage them to back that with a hardware wallet. So it's really about the context of your experience. I think that the FastDot solution isn't perfect for every app, right? Like, if it's something that requires like a lot of wallet interoperability, then maybe you want to just have Connect Wallet button. But I think it's just about yeah, thinking about what's right for your users. And what we're finding is we need to address a whole new market of users with stuff like FastDot, that accounts are secured with emails or passwords instead of seed phrases, something more familiar.
Yeah. One last 40-second question. 35-second question. No, if not,
Uh, I'll be here all week if you guys want to talk about anything FastDoth or simplifying your experience.
you will also see me around. And thank you so much for being here. And we hope you have a great conference. Thank you.